My sister disappeared for 6 hours. She came home believing she'd been gone for 10 minutes. For years, that was the strangest part of the story. Then I found the videos. If I forget this, tell me I wasn't alone. I didn't see a spaceship. That's the part people always get wrong when I tell this story. There were no flashing lights in the sky, no little gray men standing in the road. I just lost 47 minutes, and 3 days later I found out I wasn't alone in my truck during them. This happened in October of 2022. I was driving home from my brother's place in northern Arizona. It was late, a little after 11, and I was on a 2-lane road with nothing around me except desert. I remember the time because I'd stopped for gas about 20 minutes earlier. 11:08 p.m. I bought coffee, paid at the counter, and texted my girlfriend Rachel. About an hour away, then I got back on the road. For the next 15 minutes, nothing happened. Then my radio stopped working. Not static, it just went silent. The display was still on. Bluetooth was connected. The song timer was moving. No sound. I turned the volume up. Nothing. Then I noticed something ahead, a white light. At first, I thought it was another car coming over a hill, except it wasn't moving. It was hanging above the road, maybe 100 yards ahead. I slowed down. The light got brighter. I remember reaching for my phone. That's the last thing I remember. The next thing I knew, my truck was stopped on the shoulder, engine running, headlights on, both hands on the steering wheel for a few seconds. I didn't understand why I'd stopped. Then I looked at the dashboard clock. 12:14 a.m. I actually laughed. I thought the clock had reset. I checked my phone. 12:14, that didn't make sense. The last time I'd looked at the clock, it had been around 11:27. I checked Google Maps. I was still on the same road, less than 5 miles from where I remembered seeing the light. 47 minutes had passed. I had traveled almost nowhere. My first thought was that I'd fallen asleep. That scared me more than anything supernatural. Maybe I'd pulled over without remembering. Maybe I was exhausted, so I got out of the truck. I checked the tires. I checked the front bumper. Nothing. Then I noticed the driver's door was already unlocked. That sounds normal. It wasn't. My truck automatically locks the doors when I start driving. I checked the passenger door. Unlocked. Rear passenger door. Unlocked. All 4 doors were unlocked. I locked them, got back inside, and drove home. I didn't tell Rachel about the light. I just said I'd gotten tired and stopped for a while. For the next 2 days, I almost convinced myself that was what happened. Then Rachel borrowed my truck. She came back inside holding my dashcam. "Why did you unplug this?" I hadn't. I took the memory card out and put it into my laptop. The video was normal until 11:26 p.m. Empty highway, my headlights, music playing quietly. Then, at 11:27, the image turned completely white, not overexposed, white. The audio continued. For the first few seconds, there was only the engine. Then the engine stopped. I heard myself say something, very quietly, "Okay." About 10 seconds later, the driver's door opened, then another door opened. The passenger door, then both rear doors, 4 doors. I was alone, at least. I had been. After that came a sound I still can't explain. 3 slow taps, not on the camera, not on the windshield. They sounded like they came from somewhere inside the truck. Then nothing. The recording stayed white for 46 minutes. At 12:13 a.m., the picture returned. My truck was parked on the shoulder. All 4 doors were closed. I was sitting behind the wheel. I didn't move for almost a minute. Then I suddenly looked around like I'd just woken up. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Rachel noticed something I hadn't. She rewound the video to the moment before the screen turned white. 11:27:03. My truck was moving down an empty road. 11:27:04. White screen. She paused it. "Look at the passenger window." There was a reflection in the glass. I told her it was mine. She shook her head. My reflection was visible in the driver's window. This was something else. A pale shape, sitting in the passenger seat, facing me. The dashcam caught it for 1 frame. 1 frame. I sold the truck 2 weeks later. I never drove that road at night again, but every October, around the same date, something strange happens to my phone. At exactly 11:27 p.m., the screen turns white. It stays that way for 47 seconds, then it goes back to normal. Last year, something changed. During those 47 seconds, I heard 3 taps from the other side of my bedroom door. Losing 47 minutes is one thing, but the second story didn't begin with something disappearing. It began with something calling. The first call lasted 11 seconds. Nobody spoke. The second lasted 14. On the third night, something on the other end said my name. My name is Ethan Cole. In 2021, I rented a small house outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was cheap because it was far from everything. No neighbors close enough to see from the windows. No streetlights. Just desert, power lines, and a long dirt driveway. I liked it. Until the calls started. The first one came at 2:17 in the morning. My phone rang on the nightstand. Unknown number. I answered because my mother had been in the hospital that week, and for half a second I thought it might be someone calling from there. Hello, nothing. Then a low clicking sound, click. The call ended. I checked the number. There wasn't one. The call log just said, unknown. The next night. 2:17 a.m. same thing, clicking. This time I recorded it in the morning. I played it for a friend who works with audio equipment. He said it sounded like interference. Maybe some weird network problem. That explanation worked for me until the third night. 2:17, I answered. Then, Ethan, I sat up. Who is this? The call ended. I called my phone company the next morning. They couldn't find the calls. According to their records, my phone hadn't received anything at 2:17, so I changed my number. That night I turned the phone completely off. At 2:17 a.m., it rang. The screen stayed black, but the ringtone came from the speaker. I didn't touch it. It rang 6 times, stopped. Then something outside clicked. Same rhythm, click. I went to the window, nothing. I turned on the porch light, empty driveway. I checked the doors, locked, windows locked. Then I noticed my dog, Milo. He was sitting in the hallway staring upward, not at the front door, at the ceiling. The next morning, I climbed onto the roof. I expected to find an animal. Maybe a bird had been up there instead. I found 3 small marks in the dust, perfect circles. Each about the size of a quarter. They formed a triangle. There were no footprints around them. That afternoon, I packed a bag and drove to my friend Marcus's apartment in the city. I didn't tell him the whole story. I just said something weird was happening at the house for the first time in days. I relaxed, traffic outside, people upstairs, a television through the wall, normal sounds. At 2:16 a.m., I was still awake. Marcus was asleep on the couch. My phone was sitting on the table, powered off. 2:17, nothing happened. I almost laughed. Then Marcus's phone rang. He woke up. Who calls at 2 in the morning? I grabbed his wrist before he answered. Don't. The phone kept ringing, unknown number. Then it stopped. Marcus stared at me. What the hell is going on? Before I could answer, his television turned on. Black screen. No picture. Then the speakers made that sound, click. Marcus unplugged it. The clicking continued, not from the television, from the window. We were on the 5th floor. Neither of us moved. Click. Then my voice came from Marcus's phone, not a recording. I recognized my voice. Calm, far too calm. Marcus, open the window. Marcus looked at me. I was standing 3 feet away from him. The voice repeated, open the window. We didn't. After maybe 30 seconds, everything stopped. At sunrise, I went home. I packed the rest of my things and moved out that day. For months, nothing happened. Then I listened to the recording from the first call again. The one I'd made before the voice ever said my name. I cleaned up the audio, slowed it down. The clicking wasn't random. There was something underneath it. A voice, very faint. It had been there from the first night, before it should have known who I was. It wasn't saying my name. It was saying, wrong one. Then, after a pause, keep looking. I haven't received another call since. But Marcus has, every few months. Always at 2:17. He stopped answering them a long time ago, 2 weeks ago. He sent me a screenshot for the first time. The caller wasn't listed as unknown. There was a name. Ethan Cole. I was sitting beside him when the call came in. And that's where the last story becomes harder to explain. Because years earlier, the exact same sound appeared on 6 videos nobody remembered recording. My sister disappeared for 6 hours. She came home believing she'd been gone for 10 minutes. For years, that was the strangest part of the story. Then I found the videos. My sister's name is Claire. In the summer of 2019, she was 26 and living outside Boise, Idaho. One Friday night, she left work around 9:30. She should have been home by 10. At 10:45, my mother called me. Claire wasn't answering. At first, nobody panicked. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she'd stopped somewhere. At midnight, my father and I drove the route between her office and apartment. We found her car around 12:40. It was parked on a narrow county road, driver's door open, headlights on. Claire's purse was inside, so were her keys. Her phone was on the driver's seat. No Claire. We called the police. They searched the area, fields, drainage ditches, nearby properties. Nothing. Then at 3:52 a.m., Claire walked into a gas station 11 miles away, barefoot. She asked the cashier if she could use a phone. My father picked her up. Claire seemed confused more than anything. She kept asking why everyone was upset. She said she'd been driving home when she saw lights above a field. She pulled over, got out, watched them for maybe 10 minutes. Then she remembered walking toward the gas station. That's it. She didn't remember 6 missing hours. The police assumed she'd become disoriented. Maybe she'd hit her head. The hospital found nothing serious. Claire accepted that explanation. We all tried to, but there was one problem: her feet. She'd supposedly walked 11 miles barefoot. There were no cuts, no blisters, not even much dirt. For the next few months, Claire seemed normal, mostly. Then she started sleepwalking. Every few weeks, she'd wake up standing outside, always facing north. Once I stayed at her apartment and heard the front door open around 3 in the morning. I followed her. Claire walked into the parking lot, stopped, tilted her head back. She stood there for almost 5 minutes. I finally touched her shoulder. She opened her eyes. Did they call? I asked what she meant. She looked confused. I don't know. A year passed then too. The sleepwalking stopped. Claire got married, moved to Oregon. We stopped talking about that night. In 2024, my parents decided to sell their house. While helping them clear the garage, I found an old box of Claire's things. Inside was the phone she'd had when she disappeared. The police had returned it years earlier. I charged it. Most of the files were exactly what you'd expect: photos, messages, music. Then I found a folder containing 6 videos, all recorded during the hours Claire was missing. The first video started at 10:17 p.m. The camera pointed at darkness. Claire was breathing hard. Then she whispered, "There's something above me." A low sound filled the recording, not an engine, more like a vibration. The video ended. The second recording was 40 minutes later. The camera showed a smooth white surface. Claire whispered, "I can't move my left hand." The third video showed nothing but darkness. The fourth was different. The camera was pointed downward. I could see Claire's bare feet. She was standing on a dark floor. There were other feet around her, at least 4 pairs, thin, pale, motionless. I stopped watching. For about an hour, I couldn't make myself continue. Then I opened video 5. Claire was crying quietly. Someone was standing behind her. You couldn't see its face. Only part of a narrow shape reflected in something metallic. Then Claire asked, "Why me?" A sound answered. 3 clicks. I froze. I'd never heard that sound before, but somehow it felt familiar. The 6th video was recorded at 3:41 a.m., 11 minutes before Claire appeared at the gas station. The camera was pointed at her face. She looked exhausted. Then she said, "If I forget this, tell me I wasn't alone." The video ended. I called Claire immediately. I didn't explain. I just asked if she remembered making videos that night. Long silence. Then she said, "What videos?" I sent her the last one. She called me back 5 minutes later. She was crying, not because of what she'd seen, because of what she'd heard. "Play the end again," she said. I did. Claire said, "Turn the volume all the way up." I listened. After her younger self said, "Tell me I wasn't alone." There were several seconds of silence, then another voice spoke. A human voice. Male, very close to the phone. "Neither were you." I didn't understand. Claire did. She asked me to check the metadata, so I did. The videos hadn't been recorded on Claire's phone. They had been transferred onto it. All 6 files listed the same original device. A device with my name. I told her that was impossible. I hadn't been with her. I was living almost 200 miles away. Then Claire asked me a question I'd never considered. "Where were you that night before Mom called?" I started to answer, then stopped. My mother called me at 10:45 p.m. I remembered that clearly. I remembered driving to help search. I remembered finding Claire's car. But I couldn't remember anything between leaving work at 8:30 and answering my mother's call at 10:45. More than 2 hours was simply gone. I checked my old Google account. Location history from that night still existed. At 8:46 p.m., my phone was near my apartment. Then nothing. No location data for almost 2 hours. At 10:39, it reappeared on the same county road where we later found Claire's car. 6 minutes before my mother called me. I have no memory of being there. Claire and I don't talk about the videos anymore. We agreed there probably isn't an answer we'd actually want. But last Christmas, she came to visit. We were sitting in my parents' kitchen when the power went out. Everything went completely dark, and somewhere above the house we heard a low vibration. Claire grabbed my arm. Neither of us said anything. Then came 3 soft sounds from the roof. Click, 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 click. Claire looked at me, and for the first time in 5 years, I remembered something from those missing 2 hours. Not a room, not a face. Just Claire standing beside me in a bright white place, and someone asking us a question. Which one should we send back first?